Am I Wrighster or am I wrong? With my main man, as usual, Ralph Amsden. Thank you guys for joining the show. It is National Women's Day in sports, Women and Girls Day in sports. So we're going to talk about some female athletes for a sec. What would you do if you were like Jeff Bezos and retired as the richest man in the world? Country music star Morgan Wallen, he drops the N-word and immediately online he becomes about rap music. Mike Lindell, aka MyPillow guy, his Newsmax performance went off the rails and it was outstanding watching on social media. LeBron James and Courtside Karen is absolutely hilarious, but it had an amazing ending. And the NFL is being accused of racial discrimination for its concussion settlement payouts. And Martina Navratilova, she seeks a provision to Joe Biden's executive order for transgender participation. So we're going to talk about that. Am I Wrighster or am I wrong is the intersection where sports, business, society, and pop culture meet the truth. The truth is the most important thing that we have, and we have open and honest conversations. Daily fire on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Facts only here. Check your feelings at the door because no BS is allowed. We keep it 100. If you want to get a hold of us, you can shoot us an email. I'm mad, IMMAD at unafraidshow.com. Make sure that you tell a friend about it and subscribe and all of those things. Oh, and also you can listen to us on the Pac-12 Apostles podcast as well, and me on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Check the bio, all that stuff. But Ralph, today, so we had this whole plan of everything that we were going to talk about. And then Ralph went and got in a Twitter fight. So this is where the show's going to start. And if you don't know Ralph, his Twitter handle is right next to you right there. So if you want to start a fight on Twitter, he's the guy.
Please don't. Please don't.
He got in a fight today. Tell the people what happened, Ralph. Go ahead.
It's not even that interesting. I've tried so hard for the last year just to kind of like mind my own business and not jump in, because 99% of the things that I get in is replying to somebody else's crazy reply to a viral tweet. Because my first instinct, anytime there's a viral tweet, is always to like scroll down into the mentions. And I did that today on a Beth Moore tweet. And if you don't know who Beth Moore is, she is like a Christian teacher / author. And the one of the reasons I follow Beth Moore is because nobody on Twitter, not the Kent State gun girl, not AOC, nobody gets more weird hate on Twitter than this sweet woman, Beth Moore, who is like in her early 50s and is just like all about God and the Bible and being nice to people, right? A lot of people hate her because she's a woman and she shouldn't be speaking. And then there's people who hate her just because she's religious, and everybody has a voice online. So, you know, it's just always interesting to see what she says on a daily basis that will get people riled up. And today she tweeted, "Jesus is not a Republican or a Democrat," which I don't make sense to me. Those two things they didn't even like exist. When he walked the earth. And, you know, he's not exactly into American politics or anything like that, despite what many people will lead you to believe. And somebody in her mention, a million people in her mentions always have a million things to say. But someone said, "Oh, good, the both sides or no side argument. Helpful. Jesus was a dissident fighting against the status quo of bigotry, misogyny, and oppression. Right now, that aligns with the Democrat Party. Jesus in this moment would be a Democrat. 100 years ago, a Republican." And I was thinking to myself, and I was like, don't say anything. And
but you can't not say anything.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll at least be earnest, right? I just said like, hey, Jesus in this moment or any other moment, he'd be Jesus, right? Like there's no identity outside of that. Like, it's its own identity. Like that's the whole point, is that it's its own thing. and that you're supposed to look at things through that lens prior to any other lens that you identify with. And he said the concept that Jesus would not take sides ignores everything Jesus did. He took sides and he died for it. And I was like, well, I mean, he was the side. He was the side.
So why
took.
did you get in the fight if you knew that there's no winning this fight, Ralph?
I don't know, man. I have no idea. I don't know. And it's immediately evident to me that I'm like, oh, I'm arguing with a person who does not possess the ability to see things the way that I see things. Like, cannot step outside of where they're at to look at things the way that I'm looking at them.
So
impossible. And so
everybody
I did it to
pick
myself.
a fight with, yes, you did it. So everybody, if you ever want to get in a Twitter fight, pick it with Ralph. Just at him something.
Please don't.
Yes, please do it and tag me in it because he cannot resist.
I do struggle. I really struggle to like let my thumbs rest.
Today is National Women and Girls in Sports Day. So which female athletes, Ralph, inspire you or have?
Well, the nice thing for me is and I even tweeted this today. Like when you're at a formative age, seeing female athletes participate in sports media or compete in sports at a high level at that formative age, I think really keeps you from growing up to be a person who just writes kitchen in the reply of every single WNBA tweet. And so I think I was lucky enough to not grow up to become a jerk because I got Sports Illustrated for Kids in the mail. So I'd see stuff about what Mia Hamm was up to or Rebecca Lobo.
Yeah.
But I had three big influences. One was seeing Linda Cohn on SportsCenter every single day. And she wasn't just hanging with everybody.
She's good.
Yeah, she was like, it wouldn't have been the same without her.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't have been the same without Kenny Mayne, or it wouldn't have been the same without Olbermann and Patrick's partnership, or Stuart Scott or Rich Eisen. Like it would have been incomplete without her. She was elite. And then the second one was my freshman year in high school. We had what is considered to be the best girls basketball team in the history of the state of Arizona. They were all juniors when I was a freshman in high school. We practiced against them. They had a 6'7" senior who went on to play in the WNBA.
Yeah.
And they had a 6'5" power forward. Their point guard was a freshman, and she was a really good friend of mine. 4 of them went to college to play college basketball, and the only one that didn't was maybe the best one out of all of them, had cystic fibrosis, and that's the only thing that kept her from doing it. And so, like, the big men on campus when I was in high school, even though I went to high school with, like, Terrell Suggs, it was the women's basketball team. Yeah. And the third one was my track coach was a former ASU track athlete who talked me into running track and became my first like coach that I had a long-term relationship with. And so, I mean, that was it for me. And then now I have a ton of colleagues that I look up to and respect and consume their content. But I think the formative age was the really big part for me.
Yeah, for me, the women in sports that probably have had the biggest impact on me, like first had to be Serena Williams, just because she's so damn dominant. I mean, like Tiger Woods dominant, and the influence that she's had, like when my oldest daughter played tennis, and to see the impact that it's had and how tennis has changed colors, and it's a rainbow at tennis events now. And so that's good to see. And like her and Venus have been like powerful in that way. And also helping in the pay gap, all of that stuff. And truthfully, if I have a choice to watch, and granted, I'm a big Roger Federer fan, I like men's tennis, but look, if I have a choice between watching Serena Williams and Rafael Nadal, Joker, Federer, I'm watching Serena because it's more interesting to me. First thing, and then two, the men's matches are too damn long. They're just too damn long.
Yeah.
Like I don't have.
I would say, do you think Serena's the only female athlete that experiences the same thing that dominant male athletes experience, in that if they lose, people don't talk about what somebody did to beat them. People talk about like what was wrong with them on that day. Because I can't think of any other female athlete that gets that treatment, to where if they lose, it's like, oh, why didn't they meet the expectation
standard? Yeah, why didn't they meet the standard
of dominance?
Yep.
Yeah. Because LeBron gets that, Tiger Woods gets that. But the only female athlete that I can think of that gets that treatment is Serena.
And you know who? And then another female, but not necessarily. She's in athletics, but not a current athlete. Is Doris Burke, dude? Like Doris Burke is. I love listening to Doris Burke do basketball games. There is nobody else besides maybe like Jay Billis for college that I'm like, yo, I can't wait to hear this dude. I can't wait to. I mean, Doris Burke is an educator. She's entertaining. There's nobody I would rather listen to call a basketball game than Doris Burke. Period. Like nobody. Like if you could put her with if her and Mike Breen together, the bangs, and with Doris, dude, as an analyst, sign me up. Next thing up, well, Jeff Bezos, he is stepping down as CEO of Amazon, and he's gonna be in charge of the board, chairman of the board, all that stuff. But it's basically a semi-retirement. So that got us to thinking, what would you do if you were like Jeff Bezos and you retired as the richest man in the world? And I was thinking, I was like, okay, not Jeff Bezos' age, but my age right now. At 39 years old, I was like, what would I be doing? I was like, I would be still on this podcast with Ralph because Ralph would not be the richest man in the world. So then he would still be doing it.
You want to hear about my poor people problems?
So I would still be doing it. I would have a bigger, fancier production studio, all of that stuff. But aside from that, like not much would change in my life. I get at least one more car. I would never step foot in an airport again. Like that's for sure. An actual terminal, never again. I've flown private before. That is the only way to go. So I would never step foot in a regular airport again. That's for commoners.
Would you even upgrade my equipment, or would you just be coming in crystal clear and then you have like the delay on my side just to torture me on this podcast? I'm trying to figure out what the...
Ralph, are you kidding me? Dude, I would absolutely upgrade all your stuff because then that would affect my production. So that would affect our production, dude. I am absolutely upgrading everything about your situation because I roll with the homies. So
yeah.
And if you do good, I do good. It's like that Jay-Z line. If you're the only millionaire around you, then you're doing it wrong. Basically, that you're whack. If you're the only one of your friends that's doing well, then you ain't really doing all that well. So that's the way I look at it.
Okay. I would say that I've always said that if I got lottery money, you'd never hear from me again. But I think one of the reasons that you'd never hear from me again is lottery money's finite. Like you could run out, I'd be in a cabin in the woods somewhere. Nobody would ever hear. I have everything I need shipped in.
No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't.
Okay. All right.
You have too much to say. My wife says the same thing. You have too much to say.
My wife says the same thing. And I think the only reason I'm talking now is because I don't have enough money to be filling my face with caviar or anything. So I will say this, though. If I got, like, Bezos money, it would be live sporting events. That'd be everything. Like, our show would be on the road. I'd put on all my friends.
Yeah.
Everybody would have a role in the organization.
Yes.
And every single major live sporting event, we'd be there. Every single one.
So it would be like
we
a
would
new
be
bar
at
stool.
the actual events. Yeah, I mean, kinda. Except
not in the same way, but I mean,
yeah.
Essentially.
Except I'm sitting in a box at every game, like with just me. Maybe if you're there, maybe just you. But like I'm not. I'm definitely not a man of the people. I'll be there so I can experience it live. But I mean, it won't even be like boxing matches. It won't be ringside. They'll just have to like suspend me from a rope over So nobody can get near me, nobody can touch me, and I was still like work to achieve my privacy, but I want to be at all of these things. And if I had that kind of money, the Amazon money that would never run out, like there's no reason that you couldn't just be at everything.
Oh yeah, so we're actually gonna skip around a little bit because this is a good transition. Because then you would turn out to be this lady, this lady here, who has been affectionately nicknamed Courtside Karen.
Lady.
What's her name? I forgot her name. Is Josie Carroll?
Well, she's pointing like that one meme with the lady and the cat.
And the lady who said this about LeBron after the game.
To my husband, and I see this, and I stand up and go, "Don't fucking talk to my husband." And he looks at me and he goes, "Sit the fuck down, bitch." And I go, "Don't fucking call me a bitch. You sit the fuck, get the fuck out of here." And I go, "Don't fucking talk to my husband like that. Don't talk to my husband." And he literally was like, "Fuck you, bitch. Sit down, bitch." And all of a sudden, now I'm getting kicked out. Excuse me, I have courtside seats that I pay for. Fuck you, LeBron. You're a fucking pussy. Get the fuck out of here. You're going to let a 25-year-old girl intimidate you during a game? Bye, bitch. Yo, I truly cannot fathom how whack some of you guys are. Like, and I don't know about you guys, but if my girl was at a game and someone was talking to me and my girl didn't stand up for me, I would reevaluate that relationship. So for all of you...
So... Dude, Courtside Karen is amazing.
I love her. I'm in love.
Okay, so what parts of the video or the situation stuck out to you the most?
Oh, like the exaggeration, for sure. For sure. Like inflating the experience in her own head to the point where she was able to capitalize and like come up with this entire scenario that didn't even happen to make herself the victim, with that much face paint and still decked out like that. Like, and that was
you
even
think
after,
he called her
that
a
was
bitch?
After getting home. Probably not. I mean, she's probably been called it enough that she just inserts it in her mind. Like I know that's a thing. That's a complex, but no, man, I'm a fan of every single thing that she said and every single thing that happened, even the apology. Like, we have a new celebrity, and I bow at the altar of Juliana Carlos.
Okay, so here are the parts that stood out to me. First thing is that she said that I bought these seats. Lady, you didn't buy a damn thing. You didn't buy that. Your 60-year-old plus husband, he bought them. And LeBron was caught on camera saying, "Oh, steroid ass." And if you look at a picture of her, I should have put up a picture of her husband on here. Damn it. This dude literally looks like he belongs in a Eugenics commercial, in one of those hey, get your testosterone up, be in shape, healthy man, like one of those commercials.
No, I would not be surprised to find out he was like a gas station pills magnate. Like that's how he made his money. I would not be surprised at all.
Yeah, and she said, and then the other part is, she says she's 25. Ralph, not a chance. Do you believe she's 25?
I do. I mean, I know a few people who are 25, and some people live hard. Some people tan a lot.
Dude, she looks like she's been rode hard and hung up wet.
Yeah, I didn't like. I think of all of the slander that she got, the 25-year-old one was a bit harsh because just on the merits of what she was saying and doing. It was so ridiculous. It was just like a regular exchange, and she stepped into the line of fire with a grenade strapped to her chest and blew the whole thing so far out of proportion.
Like, I'll pull it.
Yeah, but it was like an entertainment grenade because I probably scrolled Twitter for 2 hours that I would have been doing something else, just laughing at everything that everybody had to say and the thing that I keep coming back to, George, is, and the question that I want to ask you is, what would have happened if that was you that mouthed off to an athlete, they came back at you, and your wife was sitting right there? Because that was her ultimate point, was like, you want somebody like me like, that's what you want. You want a ride or die chick. I'm definitely not saying that anybody wants somebody who's breaking the half plus 7 rule. You don't want to be dating somebody 35 years younger than you. Somebody that would be me dating somebody who is not yet born. You don't want that. Like, that's not acceptable. What I am saying is she right? Is that what the people want? Do they want somebody like her?
No. Well, yes, on some level, because my wife, if she felt like I got disrespected, bro, there's nothing that you can do. Like LeBron said, she was lucky that she got him instead of his wife. So, dude, it would be like getting attacked by an army of spider monkeys, and she's one person. So, like, yes, you do. But if I got in an argument with somebody on the court, she's not gonna jump into it. Like, she's not. Like, we're two men arguing about something. She might be like, yeah, get over there, shut up. You shut up too. But anything else, like, if she got too hyped, I'd be like, baby, like, relax. I got this. Like, don't worry about this. But if she got in an argument with another woman, I'm not jumping in like that. But if she got in an argument with a man, then I gotta jump in.
I would say I'm 100% sure of what my wife would do in that situation, and it would be me getting into it with a player, me looking over, her not being there, me getting walked out of the stadium by security, and seeing her in line at the merch stand buying a LeBron James jersey. And maybe that's why I like this girl so much, because I know for a fact that, like, not only would my wife leave me out there on an island to do my own work, she would probably join the other team. Like, she 100% believes that, like, I have to learn all these lessons 100% on my own, and she'll be real quick to side with the other party. So that keeps me from doing dumb stuff like this guy did, like chirping LeBron while he's on the court. The other thing I want to bring up is you shouldn't be offended if you're in the crowd and somebody tells you to sit down, because that's your job. Yeah, that's your job at the game. That would be like a basketball player getting mad if you yelled "play basketball" at them. If they tell you to sit down, like, that's what you do there. You pay. She even said, "I paid for the seats, so sit in them. Sit down."
Okay. No, I'm a person that I believe that people have rights at games. That they have a right to cheer, they have a right to boo, right to be entertained, all these things. And you also have a right to, I believe that you can say whatever you want to an athlete, whatever you want, as provided that you would say that same thing to them if you were locked in a room with them and there were no consequences for their reaction. Like, whatever happened to you, I would if you would say it, then yeah, I would, yep, go ahead. I have no problem with it. That's my general feeling on it.
I've talked trash to athletes from the stands before, and I was proud of myself. Like, when I was a lot younger, like early 20s, maybe late teens, I was super proud of myself for getting flipped off by your teammate, Matt Jones. I was super proud of myself for getting Brian Jordan, when he was an outfielder for the Braves, to pay more attention to me than he was paying to the game. But I was like 19 or 20 years old. Like, I was an idiot. And so I think that once your frontal lobe is fully developed, you should probably move past those things.
Okay. All right. Well, speaking of moving past those things, there is a guy who is in big time trouble right now. I'll let you tell the folks about it, Ralph.
Oh, you're letting me take this one. I don't even know if I have the qualifications to tell this story, George, but let's get after it. So there's a country music star, and if you're not into country music, that's totally okay.
And I'm into country music, so yeah.
Yeah, but I think when you get to the point where you're the musical guest on Saturday Night Live, you have dipped enough into the mainstream that people have at least probably heard your stuff.
Yeah.
And so
he's got the number one country hit for I think in 2020.
Yeah. So Morgan Wallen is a young guy. He looks like he plays for Coastal Carolina because he's, in his 20s rocking a mullet. And he is a pop country superstar who made headlines last year by, like, partying at a bar when he without like a mask or anything when he was supposed to go on Saturday Night Live, and he had his appearance delayed. And then Saturday Night Live actually did a sketch about him coming back from the future to warn himself not to make stupid decisions, because Saturday Night Live would cancel on him. And it was probably a really, really funny sketch. Jason Bateman was the host. I really enjoyed it. He's talented. He's talented. A lot of people, pop country's not their thing. It's definitely not my thing. But you can see what the appeal is, right? He's a talented artist. If it's not for you, it's not for you. But somebody filmed him outside his own house, drunk, dropping the N-word pretty aggressively. I mean, is that the best characterization for that, George?
Okay. Here's the thing. Anytime you drop the N-word, it's aggressively. In my mind. Like, if you call somebody that or refer to somebody as that, that's aggressive. That's an aggressive action, and you have actually taken your life in your own hands. But the thing is, does this look like a guy to you who would use the N-word? I mean, I know we're not supposed to judge people off of their, off of their looks, but does he look like a guy that you would say, all right, I'm not surprised he said this?
He looks like a guy that would get 5 cents in his bank account every time someone else used the N-word.
Yep, exactly.
He looks like he might have patented the phrase.
Okay, and here is the video of what he said.
Hey, actually, hey, y'all too? Hey, take care of this pussy ass motherfucker. Oh. Hey, Gracie, take care of this pussy ass.
Yep. So, yeah. So, here's what's happened to him.
Man.
And so he's been effectively canceled. And mind you, in general, I am against cancel culture. But people are going to say, oh, George, but you're going to be for this because he said the N-word as opposed to something else. No. Here is the thing. So his label, Big Loud Records, has suspended him indefinitely. iHeart said they're not playing his songs. They're taking him out of their playlist, all of this.
Country Music Television?
Yes.
So they're not going to run his videos?
Yeah. So, but people are like, this is cancel culture. No, this is time. I am not for canceling him permanently, but you do have to take a time out. You do have to take a time out. Like, there are consequences to your actions, and you have to be able to say, all right, look, man, I messed up. Let me figure out how this went left. Because people will tell you, they will say, oh, well, it was just it was a mistake. And I'm like, yes, it clearly was a mistake. But the question is, when I get drunk and I get pissed off at people, I don't start yelling racial epithets. That's not part of it. When I get mad at my wife, the first thing that comes out of my mouth is not "see you next Tuesday." You know what I mean? Like, it's right. And that's an acronym in case you missed it. But that's not so. That's the part that you have to examine. It's not that the fact that he said it. It's why he felt so comfortable. Like, you have to say, all right, he needs a timeout. And during that time, he needs to examine himself and be like, yo, why was that the first thing that came out? And people need to stop just excusing it as a mistake and say, oh, wait, hold up. There's something there that needs to be changed and addressed.
Yes. I think there's the two things, right? There's the Riley Cooper instance of like saying it in anger.
The Eagles. Yeah, the Eagles wide receiver. There he goes. So anyways, he was talking about Riley Cooper. We were talking about Morgan Wallen, the country music singer, and how whether he should be canceled, whether he should not be able to perform and all this. And I have consistently said that when you mess up, there should be a path back. There should be a path to redemption. But you can't say that there's no, like, you can't expect that there be no path to redemption. Like, people should have a way back. I am okay with people getting a way back. Like, people should absolutely have a way to redeem themselves. Welcome back, Ralph. That they should have a way to redeem themselves when something goes wrong. And now Ralph is, of course, texting me. You are in, Ralph.
We're back.
Okay.
See, this is the 75% of me that is white. Led me to believe that I'm not allowed to speak on this subject. So this is cancel culture, man. The internet just brought me.
Well, okay. So I wanted to hear what you had to say, because you were saying that there's different types of ways that people use it. You were talking about Riley Cooper from the Eagles in terms of anger and all that.
So yeah, in today's day and age, you have two situations, especially when somebody's intoxicated. You have the informal use that we just saw from Morgan Wallen, and then you have the using it in anger. I think both are seriously problematic, because one, you would have to ask yourself, there are no excuses. Everybody knows that word is not for some people to be using. You would have had to exist on an island in a culture in which that was a word that meant something else, and then all of a sudden popped up in the middle of New York City saying it to have any excuse that you didn't know that there would be consequences for your actions, right? And so he knows better, and he used it casually, and I think everyone took from that okay, this is something he says all the time for sure. Yeah. And then there's the Riley Cooper thing of oh, this dude says this when he's mad. There's probably something in his heart that needs addressed, right? Yeah. And with Morgan Wallen, I'm not sure that that's the issue, but I think there has to be some type of reckoning. It's not cancel culture, it's consequence culture. Cancel culture is when you want somebody to suffer even though it doesn't affect your life in the slightest. Cancel culture is an absolute disease. You want somebody to lose something or pay a price. Cancel culture is the crucify him. That's that culture, right? Yeah. Has nothing to do with you, but you pile on. Consequence culture is the people who have given you your privileges that you worked for and earned, remove those privileges when your work does not match. Consequence culture is the same thing that gets you fired from a job for showing up late 8 out of 10 days.
I like that. I like that, Ralph. I'm writing that down. I'm pretending that I said it from now on. No, I'm joking.
No, you're not joking. You're not joking. You're not joking.
Cancel culture versus consequence culture. Ralph knows I'm semi-joking right now. I haven't made up my mind.
You're not. It's not at all a joke. What's the road back? What's the road back? Because the one thing that was most interesting to me is in the replies to country music television saying that they were not going to play his stuff anymore. Yeah. Was I would say 75% of the replies were country music fans saying, well, then don't let them say it in rap. So where's the disconnect here that people still don't understand? That people have said oh, well, what about the hypocrisy of rappers saying it? What about the double standard of us not being allowed to say it? Why is that people's first reaction? I've never understood that. Oh,
dude, I heard a comedian, or no, it was, I forget who it was. He explained this better than I've ever heard anybody say it. He said, all right, when my wife talks to her friends, he was talking about his wife. He said, sometimes they'll call each other. They'll be like, hey, bitch, all of this, whatever, right? And he was like, but when I have a conversation with them, I never think that that's okay to say. I never think that that's okay for me to use in the situation. And the same thing with other people who are familiar with each other. That's a word or a term or of endearment that they have used in their situation. So that doesn't mean that it's okay for you to use. It's not okay. So and I thought that was a great explanation. But what did you it's easy, it's low-hanging fruit to say that it goes to rap. His path back, though, for me, is he's got to just show some change, some contrition, some change. Be like, yo, I did X, Y, and Z things to examine myself, you're going to have to do an interview in a couple months and be like, yo, here are the things that I did. And then see if people will believe you if they feel the sincerity coming from you. And I mean, yeah. So aside from that, I don't know what to tell you. The Mike Lindell, aka MyPillow guy, he went on Newsmax and it went off the rails, dude. It went off the rails. Here is what it sounded like.
So what happened? What happened with your Twitter account and the company page?
Well, first mine was taken down because we have all the election fraud with these Dominion machines. We have 100% proof. And then when they took it down about 3 weeks ago, and then I put it back up, my personal, it was a
Mike, thank you very much. Mike, you're talking about machines that we at Newsmax have not been able to verify any of those kinds of allegations. We just want to let people know that there's nothing substantive that we've seen. And let me read you something there. While there were some clear evidence of some cases of vote fraud and election irregularities, the election results in every state were certified, and Newsmax accepts the results as legal and final. The courts have also supported that view. So we wanted to talk to you about canceling culture, if you will. We don't want to relitigate the allegations that you're making, Mike, because we understand where you are. So let me ask you this. Do you think that this should be temporary because it appears to be permanent? Could you make an argument that it is temporary?
What?
Could you make an argument that this could be a temporary banning rather than
this is outstanding?
No, I want it to be a permanent because you know what? They did this because I'm revealing all the evidence on Friday of all the election fraud with these machines. So I'm
okay. Sorry. So he ended up walking out. The host in the middle. He ended up walking out of the interview, and I thought it was hilarious because I was like, I've never seen anybody just give up in the middle of an interview. He was like, forget it, I'm done with this, like I don't have any more room left for this. And it was hilarious to me. I was like, yo, why on earth, like, give it up. At some point in time you have to understand when you've lost. Like, you have to understand, like, yo, like I don't know whether he's a QAnon person or what, because they don't give up, or they rarely give up. And he's just still at it. Like, bro, the election's over. It's not coming back. Even if you believe that, it's time to stop talking about it. So then that got me to thinking about Newsmax. So do you think the guy from Newsmax interrupted him? Because I've watched Newsmax. Do you think that they interrupted him because Newsmax doesn't want to get sued by Dominion and everybody else like everybody else? Or do you think that he's just like, enough's enough?
Oh, absolutely. That statement that he read was one that was given to there's one that corporate and their corporate lawyers formulated because they're on the verge of getting sued by Dominion. Dominion already filed a $1.3 billion lawsuit against Sidney Powell, the Georgia lawyer who has been at the forefront of spreading a lot of this information about the Dominion systems being compromised by foreign actors. And the Mike Lindell thing, like the fact that a charismatic former drug addict Pillow CEO has become a national celebrity / laughing stock is just the zeitgeist. It's just the sign of our times. It's just a sign that Idiocracy was a prophetic movie. And but I want to say something, and I don't want you to mishear me on this. Mike Lindell in that clip, he might have come off as absolutely insane, but if you actually listened in between them trying to read the lawyer's statement over him, he had a point. He had a very legitimate point, and nobody has mentioned that yet. They brought Mike Lindell onto Newsmax to talk about his Twitter handle getting suspended. His Twitter handle got suspended because he keeps talking about the Dominion voting systems. So if you could hear him, he was saying, how can we have this conversation when that's why they suspended me? So like Newsmax all I've seen are reactions saying like, "Oh, it's so funny that that even Newsmax, even the conservative Newsmax can't take Mike Lindell." No, this was 100% Newsmax pieing themselves in the face because they brought a man in who got his Twitter account suspended for talking about the voting machines and then expected him to not talk about the voting machines.
Yep.
What is he supposed to do? I'm definitely not advocating for his positions. I think that he is absolutely out there alone on Saturn with some of his views. I guess we'll see on Friday. He says he's going to reveal everything on Friday. But he was getting frustrated and saying you brought me here to talk about my Twitter account. It was suspended because of this.
Okay, so I got a question for you.
I still believe it.
So do you own a MyPillow?
I do not. I need a new pillow though. I really, really badly. My sleep has not been great this week. I beat one of my pillows is beat to hell, and I genuinely thought about I bet you can get some at a pretty good discount right now from some disaffected liberals.
I always see them in Bed Bath and Beyond because we have a pillow thing in our house. I get a lot of pillows.
You got nine pillows on every couch. Is that your family?
No, hell no. But my daughter, my youngest daughter, she's 10. She likes to sleep with 3 pillows. My oldest son, he likes to sleep with, good God, I think he sleeps with 3 or 4 pillows. My middle son, he sleeps with a body pillow and a regular pillow. So anyways, there's a lot of pillows in our house. And every time I would always walk in and see the MyPillows, and I never got them because it just felt kind of gimmicky. And then I'm funny about pillows too. I need them to be hyperallergenic. You know what I mean? I don't know whether I want them actual feathers or whether it's a whole thing.
My dad always says my dad won't buy stuff like that that's always on TV because he always says you're paying for the advertisements.
He's right.
I don't get that because I had Geico for a long time and I really liked it, and I told my dad I had Geico, and he just said, "You're just paying for the ads. You're not paying for the coverage." But I'm what are you talking about?
Well, you are paying for the ads, but sometimes those things match up. Next thing up, though, the NFL is being accused of racial discrimination for the concussion settlement payments. And this speaks directly to my heart and something that I care about. Because I know a lot of people who were part of the concussion settlements and the lawsuits, Rydell lawsuit, and I was actually a part of it as well. But the reason why this issue bothers me so much is because as athletes, right? As athletes, we are asked to put our bodies on the line. It's supposed to be a meritocracy. The NFL did the wrong thing with the concussions, the helmets, all of these other things. NFL was completely in the wrong. Completely in the wrong. And then on the back end, the audacity to not pay out the claims and have some racial impropriety to it. And this is not just from the ABC News report. If you go to disability, let me pull up his Twitter right now. If you go to the NFL disability Twitter, I'll tag it in the I'll tag it in the show notes, but there is a Twitter, the NFL, disabled NFL player, I think it is. They always talk about how the racial element applies when it comes to guys not getting their coverage or not getting their payments. And what the issue is this. Hold on, let me get Ralph back in. The issue is this. The issue is not that they should or should not be paid. Hold on. I am going to take a break for just half a second so I can get Ralph back in, and then we will be good. Sorry about the issues. What are we at? 45 minutes. Okay. Ralph, can you hear me? Oh, okay. I don't know why I can't see you. You disappeared there. Okay, let's get you back. Oh, you're the people can still hear you though. Oh, wait, actually, okay. Yes. All right. Hold on. Yep. Okay. Well, the camera's on you while I finish fixing our toolbox right now.
There we go.
Okay. So I was basically saying that I have an issue with the NFL even having this as a problem, like that guys put their bodies on the line, they put their life on the line because you can die playing football. And the fact that guys have gotten concussions, the league did the wrong thing, and then has handled this so poorly on the back end is like criminal to me. I just think that if you have done what the league has done, then yeah, there's no way in hell that you can justify the way that they have handled it.
Yeah, the NFL didn't do this, though. I mean, like the NFL in the way that people interpret the NFL. Like, this isn't Jerry Jones' fault. This isn't Roger Goodell's fault. These are the types of hiccups that come into play when you're trying to solve a problem. These are solution-oriented problems. So you finally, after dragging your feet for a really long time on even admitting that life in the NFL, taking subconcussive hits, actually contributes to CTE or brain deterioration, even though the overwhelming evidence of like, hey, why would our former players be shooting themselves in the chest? Like so you go beyond common sense to the point where your hand is forced and you say like, all right, we need to solve this problem. And in order to solve this problem, there are no good options in solving it, only retroactive options. And so we need to get into the nitty gritty of how to actually quantify the ways in which we can help people. And so in order to do that, let's bring in a team of lawyers, former legislators, stuff like that. And this is the type of stuff that people like that, when they forget that they're dealing with human beings and they're just dealing with the nitty gritty and numbers and things along that line, that's the type of stuff that they deal with. And so it's not like Roger Goodell said like, hey, make sure that you include that black people are dumber than white people, so you have to prove a further cognitive decline for black people in order to compensate them correctly. That's not what happened in this situation. It was, we need to find a way to pay these people, so let's use this set of criteria. And those people had their heads buried so far in the sand that when given a read-through by people on the outside, it's like, how could you even arrive at this conclusion?
Okay, and that term is called race norming, and it's used across several different medical fields. It's supposed to, quote unquote, safeguard against misdiagnosis, because these norms, they assume that the average black player starts at a lower level of cognitive function than the average white player at the outset of their careers. Like excuse me? I can't figure out why anybody how that makes sense to anybody, that the average black player, they all went to college. So how does and 70+% of the league is black. So how do you come up with that the cognitive function of black players on average is less? Absolutely mind-numbingly stupid to me. That's probably why we aren't getting black head coaches. It's probably why, and it took so long to get black quarterbacks, because they were like, oh yeah, they can't process information as fast as the white guys can. And it's the same issue. And
right. And so this is the thing, that when people take offense to the term systemic racism, like, this is it. This is the actual example of what it looks like when a race component is built into a system, and that system is used to devalue someone based on their skin color. But this is a literal definition of systemic racism.
This is the same thing that happens. I know people that are like, wow, this is mind-blowing. If you read any studies, the Jackson Hart study, they did a study on how different people are treated when they go to see doctors. They sent a white older man, fully grown, like 40 it was over 40. Everybody was over 40. They sent a white man over 40, a white woman over 40, black man over 40, black woman over 40. All in to the doctor with the same exact symptoms. They gave them the exact same, said all the same things. The people who were sent for the most tests and follow-up were number one, the white woman, then the white man, then the black man, then the black woman. And if you read all these studies, there are that medical people have thought for a long time, black women have a higher pain tolerance. What? And so this is part of the systemic racism that is in the healthcare system. And this is what's showing up with the NFL. Did the NFL do this on purpose? No. Even the doctors in the article, the ABC article, I'll tag it in the show notes as well. It said, some of them came out and said, like, yo, like, we didn't want to do this. We think that this is wrong, but this is the protocols that we were given. And in really thinking about it, wow, this is bad. And some of them don't want to talk because they're like, yo, this is going to affect our practice either negatively or positive in some kind of way because we're going to look really, really bad and really, really stupid. So when people talk about systemic racism, obviously this is not just an overt problem where people are saying, oh, yeah, this is like, let's keep black people down. No, they actually were trying to do something to adjust for it. Or to try to make sure the playing field is even or something. And they just did something stupid.
Right. And I mean, one of my biggest pet peeves is when people get really riled up by the phrase systemic racism, because you'll lose a lot of people even talking about that one phrase in particular, because people think of themselves as the system. And what I want to tell people is, like, you should be as upset about systemic racism as somebody who it affects, because the progress that you've made in your personal life and in the generations that you've sired, in your children, in your grandchildren, the progress that you have made gets hindered by systems that have inherent racism built into them. It affects you. You hate that everybody's talking about race all the time. Get rid of these systemic issues of racism so that your personal progress can actually shine through. Because when a mortgage application or a hand blower that sees white skin and not dark skin, or this concussion compensation, when issues that are actually built into the system come out and they affect people of a different skin color or of a minority race or culture, like that affects how you're seen. You want to get rid of those things as much as possible if you are as elevated and adapted to modern society as you claim to be. But instead, so many people are like, well, I'm not racist, so the system can't be racist. But the system isn't you. The system isn't you unless you're in charge, unless you're making the rules. And then so unless you're in a position to actually like push back against that system and use whatever platform that you have to do so, you're constantly going to be in a situation where you might not want to hear about race anymore. You want to live in a post-racial society, but you can't because of stuff like this that you're not actually responsible for. So the correct reaction is not to look at issues of systemic racism or hear the phrase systemic racism and say, like, this is not what I'm about, therefore I'm going to completely tune out or push back against that. It's to recognize that if a scientific study or if credible people say this inherent bias exists, then you use whatever you can, whatever resource you can to help get rid of that thing. And this is just a situation where I hope people aren't hearing that we're talking about racism and they're like, oh, that's just George wants to keep race in the conversation. The goal is to get it out. I don't want to talk about race.
Like, I want it out of I'm tired of talking about race. I don't want to talk about it. I want to just celebrate race because when people say, oh, I don't see race. Yes, you should see race. That way you can see if there are issues or problems or whatever. Seeing race, there's not a problem with it. It's how you react to the race. That's the issue. Because I love, like for instance, I got a chance to, I think 2 years ago, I went to an Armenian wedding. Or it was a Persian wedding. First time ever at a Persian wedding. I've been to an Armenian wedding, but not a Persian wedding. And I was like, yo, I want to go to more of these. This is absolutely awesome. Like, I appreciate this culture. Like, invite me. If you're Persian, invite me to your wedding. I want to come. I will donate at the end because the party is fantastic. But yeah, so we should celebrate people's cultures and differences, but it's how you react to them if you react to them negatively or treat people differently. Speaking of this, on the last episode, we talked about the transgender issues with sports, where to participate, how to participate, where they should play, all these things. And Martina Navratilova, former tennis champ, one of the greatest tennis players of all time, she is advocating for a provision to Joe Biden's executive order for transgender participation. And I'll let Ralph explain this because he gets to explain all the technical things.
Yeah, so I got to admit, you had me go back and actually read the executive order, and I don't fully understand what it is that I'm reading here, because so many states, and we got into this, but so many states, including my own here in Arizona, and I actually know the sponsor of one of the bills. His name's Jeff Bezos. He's a state representative down here. He co-owns one of my favorite restaurants, and they took all this boilerplate legislation from these conservative groups and tried to make sure that male to female transgender athletes could not compete in high school. Right. And so these laws have been being passed all over the country for the last couple of years. And Joe Biden signs an executive order. And you and I came on this show and we talked about it like that was going to be the end of all of those local laws. But I read the executive order and it has the word should in it. Like, no student should face discrimination, whether they're the bathroom that they want to use at their high school or participation in sports on the basis of the gender that they identify with. And the word should makes me think that this executive order is more about intent and it doesn't actually have the teeth.
Correct.
I'm not actually sure what's going on. And so it seemed to me that Martina Navratilova, and I'm trying to look up the article right now, it seemed to me that Martina Navratilova really wanted, Joe Biden to like make sure that this executive order actually overrides all of these state laws that are being passed to ensure that male to female transgender athletes can actually participate in the sport of their gender identity.
Well, here's what she said. She said she opposed an all-inclusive situation where trans men and women, just based on their self-ID, would be able to compete with no mitigation, no rules outside of that whatsoever. That clearly would not be a level playing field. So she was for us agreeing that she's one of the people who launched the women's sports policy working group to form a science-based ethical approach that.
Okay, so this is a completely different issue. This is one that you and I have touched on just in texting back and forth. This is women who were born women in sort of a proxy battle with people who take hormone therapy to conform to the gender identity that they feel like they were born with. And so this is the thing that people who advocate for trans rights call TERFs, trans exclusionary radical feminists. Like, they're all about moving forward the position of women in society, but they don't necessarily include trans rights in that because they're trying to advocate for the female gender, like the born female gender. Well, and so it seems like Martina Navratilova might be on that, which is a really contentious debate that I have no idea what to even think of.
Here's what she wants. She wants a carve out quote for elite sports where there will be some rules as to what's possible and what's not. And that's basically only based on biology and evidence and science. We are only talking about a carve out for a separate policy for elite sports or sports at a higher level of high school, college, and pros. So that would eliminate intramural sports like that like whoever wants to play can play. But if you are a high school athlete, what she's basically saying is you either have to participate in the sport of the gender that you were born, or we have to find some science-based approach that we can say, all right, here are the parameters for testosterone or whatever else that you have to fall within to be able to participate, which is what we said on the last podcast. So I was like, this is finally somebody's making sense.
So it's a solutions-based approach, but what people will tell you is that it is discriminatory. That's what people will tell you. Listen, anyway, and I can't speak. I am not involved enough in this to be able to speak to it with any level of authority. What I just try to understand is where people are coming from and why. And I understand what Martina Navratilova is saying and why, as an elite level female competitor in the sport of tennis, right? Like, I understand where she's coming from and why. I understand where advocates for trans rights within athletics are coming from as well. I get it, but what am I don't know what to do with the information that I've been provided.
So if Rafael Nadal decide, and mind you, he's one of the elite players. If you took a top 200 tennis player and put him on the women's tour, he would probably be the best player, or like probably, right? So if you take Rafael Nadal, he says, all right, look, I was born XYZ way. Like, this is what I believe. I'm transitioning to be female. I'm sorry, as a woman. So this is what I'm going to do. I want to compete on the WTA. That's not fair. It's not fair to Serena, not fair to Caitlin. Otani. It's not fair to whoever else, because it's not a level playing field. That's the issue. It's not about it. Like, people keep making it about trans hate. It's not about that. It's about divisions and all this stuff were created to make fairness. That's why there's minor leagues in the baseball. There are different leagues for people of different skill levels.
Okay, but so I just want to see if I can help you hear this from their perspective. Okay, there was that scene in the Jackie Robinson movie starring Chadwick Boseman, in which one of the commentators of the Dodger game said that it was unfair to include Negro League baseball players because they had an elongated heel bone, right? And so,
okay,
ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
that is how they feel in those circumstances. If you're saying that we can't compete, because if you're saying like Rafael Nadal, it wouldn't be I have decided that I am female. It would be Rafael Nadal saying I've always been a female. The hormones that pump through my body don't match the gender that I identify with. Therefore, I need to undergo procedures to ensure that that I am who I believe that I have always been.
So
the issue is we get into the nitty gritty of like,
should you have to have? I mean, that we don't even have to go there. But the question is then, should you be forced to take hormones? And that's where I agree with Navratilova. I'm saying that is that in elite sports, you should either have to compete in the gender that you were born in, or you have to have some science to say what the actual answer is. That's what I believe.
I don't know. I'm honestly in a place where I don't know, but I will ask you this question. Do you feel that anybody who takes a who gives a shit attitude to Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, everybody who was with Victor Conti and Balco, the cream and the clear and all that stuff, do you feel like anybody who gives a pass to people who were in the steroid era and benefited from it have the ability to also hold the position that they believe that it is unfair to women in sports to have transgender participants? Because they've already taken the position of where, like, I don't mind if my athletes are chemically altered so long as I'm entertained. So if you have that mindset of, I don't mind if my athletes are chemically altered so long as I'm entertained, can you then turn around and say, this isn't fair for women though?
You are talking to one of those people. So I truly believe that in baseball, that when you talk to the players who played in that era, that more than 50% of the players or more were potentially using. You look at the history of greenies in the sport and cocaine and all this stuff. It's been a level playing field. Like, so that's where my pushback would be on you, and that is that I do believe it's an actual level playing field. But you guys, we will continue to cover all of this and more right here on Wrighster or Wrong. I'm George Wrighster. He is Ralph Amsden. And you guys, make sure that you guys download the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, tell a friend about it because it's absolutely fire. Catch you guys on Friday.